Please bear with us a moment. We are waiting for quorum.
Josh, you put something about
We will begin shortly. We have Todd online.
soon. Hi,
Doesn't hear so.
thanks, Charles. Thank you.
Can you make me a host, Josh? Oh, okay, great.
Thomas. Maybe. And if not, I can remember
Me reasoning.
right now, there'll be usually stuff.
Sorry.
Thomas, you got a blue one.
I saw.
I might blue.
You got a blue one.
Try to find my blue. I don't know.
They had a group today at Bryan Park, three-piece piano. And great jazz today, from 12:30 to 2:30. Free music. Tomorrow, there's a group in front of Greeley Square from 1:30 to 3. No, from 12:30 to 2.
Which one's Greenlee?
Greeley's there's a statue there, some guy named Greeley.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, we're gonna begin. Myrtle can confirm, I believe that we have quorum now.
All right, well,
Uh,
this does not have an October thing in there.
it's September.
Oh, wait, it's gonna be, it's our September.
Welcome to the September 4th meeting of the Parks, Public Spaces and Environment Committee of Manhattan County Board 5. This is the regularly scheduled meeting. I am Libby Hutton. I am the committee chair. We will begin by confirming quorum, which we have just done. First, I will ask everyone to go around the room and introduce ourselves, beginning with my vice chair, Myrtle Vick.
Hi, my name is Ronald Vikram.
Oh, hi, my name's Tom Ricardo.
Catherine Ellington.
Michael K.
Kim McCall.
John Harris.
Charles Baker.
Great. Just a little bit of a rundown of how our meeting will flow tonight. Our agenda includes the following items. We have the Union Square Holiday Market RFP. It's a review of the city's request for proposals for a 5-year contract for the installation, operation, and management of an October holiday gift market at Union Square Park. Our second item is the Penn Plaza Pedestrian Bridge project at West 33rd Street. We'll have a presentation on the proposed enclosed pedestrian bridge over West 33rd Street between 1 Penn Plaza Block 783, Lot 70, and 2 Penn Plaza Block 781, Lot 9002A, including the design, access, and community impacts. We will then move to new business. As a refresher, for each agenda item, I will introduce the item. I will invite the presenter or applicant to give their presentation. Once the presentation concludes, I will open the floor for questions from committee members only. Members must wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. All remarks should be addressed through the chair, it's me, and we ask that members keep their questions concise and focused to the agenda item and questions that will impact our deliberations. Once the committee questions are complete, I will then open the meeting to public comment. Members of the public should raise their hand and wait to be recognized. And when called on, please state your name and affiliation. Again, comments should be brief and focused on the agenda item. Finally, we will then enter a business session for committee deliberation. Only committee members are allowed to speak during that time. and the applicant or public may only respond if requested by the chair. During that deliberation, please wait to be recognized by the chair, and please direct all of your comments to the chair. Once that is complete, we will then take a motion to vote on the item, which will then get referred to the executive committee, which will then go to the full board for ratification and recommendation. So, thank you. Our first agenda item is the Union Square Holiday Market RFP. I believe that we have, are you presenting please? Okay. Josh, do we know who's presenting on this?
They were just
Here.
here.
Hi, I'm Melissa from the Parks Department.
Great.
I think you were hoping to hear from us. I wasn't sure exactly what we were going to be talking about. I was the only one from Parks that got an invite to be on the panel, but it's actually I'm the Melissa Goldberg. I'm the Director of Compliance in our Concessions Division at Parks. I have colleagues that are not listed as panelists, but they're attendees. And so for the RFP, they should be the ones to speak to that if that's okay.
That would be great.
Who are your colleagues, Melissa?
So there's Andrew Capola, and Angel. Is Angel here? Sorry, we're Teams people. I'm not like expert on, I haven't used Zoom in a while, so I'm just trying to see.
There,
Yeah, they.
I don't see either of them. Is this 646 number? Could that
That's
be him?
Andrew.
Okay.
Can you unmute him?
No,
Yeah.
you have to join in via computer.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, this is Andrew Capola. I'm the Deputy Director, like Melissa said. So just to give some background of where we're at in the process. So Angel had issued the Community Board and Borough President 40-day notice back in July for the RFP for the holiday market. So we were asked to come to the meeting today. Take a step back. So the 40 days is the window that's open prior to releasing the RFP for us to hear any feedback from the Community Board, Borough President's Office, anyone from the public on what they're looking for or what they're not looking for in the RFP. So we then take that feedback and as applicable, we apply it to the RFP or we remove things as needed. So we don't really per se have any presentation for the Community Board tonight. It's more of an opportunity for us to kind of listen to any feedback, and then we'll take that in-house and, like I said, fold that, excuse me, into the RFP. Angel is also having some issues joining the Zoom, so I'm happy to field any answers and take down any notes that you guys have for us. Thank you.
okay, was not our understanding. It passed RFPs from the Parks Department, especially for Union Square. We've had a presentation of sort of where things were at in the process already and sort of what was already in development and on the agenda. I understand that this is an existing concession for members of the committee who maybe not reviewed all of the materials yet. And the reason that we are hearing it now is because we needed an extension because we were notified at the median point between our last full board meeting, our last committee meeting and the full board meeting, and then we have our summer break. So there was no opportunity for us to be able to comment on this. We do have past copies of the RFPs to go on as a refresher for everyone else who is not from the Parks Department. Unless you want to present on who the current contract holder is, where things are in the process, and how you're thinking about the RFP moving forward differently. We've certainly heard a lot about winter markets, and we certainly have a lot of fire safety concerns now that we have not had in the past. But we are looking forward to hearing sort of how you're thinking about this RFP. Certainly in any way that's different from prior RFP requests.
Sure. Am I still off mute? I'm not sure if.
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, so I mean, we are not looking for any drastic changes from the previous RFP to the current one. I believe the current one expires March of 2026 of next year. So like I said, I think we're here today because like you said, there was a recess. So there was an initial deadline to have comments by us to us by August 18th. So if we think it's possible for the community board to share with us and share with Angel any feedback for us to loop into the RFP by, tomorrow or end of next week, please let us know. Like I said, the current one expires in March, so we want to make sure we have enough time to put the RFP out, to review all proposals and go through the awards process, which can take some time from the city's end. So we can also follow up with you in an email tomorrow if that's helpful. Just speaking to the
Just so you know a little bit
fire.
about our process, we're gonna hear this matter tonight, and then we will issue our letter about what we would like to see
Perfect.
included in the RFP. And then it will
That's
be, it
perfect.
will move to the executive committee, and then it will be voted on by our full board next Thursday, this coming Thursday, September 11th, at which point it will become the official position of Manhattan Community Board 5.
That's great. Perfect. Thank you. And if, again, I think Josh has the Angel's contact, so you can use her as the point person. Again, she's having some technical issues tonight, so I'll loop
She's
in with
getting
her.
an invalid number when invalid meeting ID invalid, which happened to me the first time I tried to log on too. So
Okay, if they can.
I'll just
if
have
there's
her
no
dial in.
communication, if they can, just try to resubmit, we can try to handle some of those technological issues, but, I do want to, in the interest of time, try to keep this moving forward as far as like where things are in the process, and how you're thinking about the creation of this RFP. And if you are farther
Yeah.
along in the process, I would hope to have more information perhaps than we might otherwise have had earlier on what's going into it and what questions you're considering and what types of proposals you're soliciting.
So I
Yeah.
think to Andrew's point, I mean, I think the point is that the expectation is it's going to be very similar. So I think when you're asking like, what are we doing differently or what are we looking for? I think it's hard for us to answer that question because as we said, the solicitation is looking for a similar kind of operation of what we've had before. If you have specific questions about the fire department and what's happened there, I do have some updates that I can provide on that specifically. But I think generally when we give a presentation, at least from my experience on an RFP, if it's a brand new solicitation, if it's for a concession we've never done before, we would provide a lot more detail on what it was that we were looking for. But it's a holiday market. They're pretty straightforward. So if you have specific questions or specific things that you're looking for, certainly put that into writing for us and we'll take it into consideration. And like I said, I'm toggling between two screens, but I can give you some updates on where we are with protection around fire, if that's helpful.
Okay, why don't you give us an update of whether or not anything in the fires have been included? Have you changed the RFP as a result of that?
I don't think that we changed the RFP to speak to that. I think that all of our contracts require that all local, state, federal laws are being followed. And I think that we have all learned from what happened last year. And I think that urban space has been extremely responsive and inviting feedback from FDNY and has been coordinating with them. And so, if you're asking if we have specific language in the RFP that speaks to fire safety, we can certainly take a look and see if that's something that we can add. But I think it's sort of become part of our process now, or at least it has with urban space. But I see your point. It's not necessarily going to be urban space next time. And we would want to make sure that whoever came in was taking appropriate precautions and coordinating as needed with both us and FDNY.
Yeah, we have a copy of the office was able to grab a copy of the old RFP from 2019. So that is sort of what we've been working off of. But for now, I will open it up for committee to ask their questions and lead. If there are any members of the committee who would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Charlie, you did the due diligence on this matter. Would you like to take us away with our first round of questions?
Sure, yeah, so I love the holiday market, but to me, the only consistent problem with it has always been this kind of pedestrian traffic flow to and from the subway entrance in the southwestern corner of Union Square. Super high traffic subway stations, particular entrance is one of the most used entrances to the station. And so, you know, local residents know that there's like this sort of back alley between the back wall of the market and the stone wall of the park. And like, that's the best way to get to and from this entrance. But if you're not local, you don't know that. So you're kind of like struggling to walk through this corridor of a busy holiday market just to get to the subway. Lots of tourists, lots of, you know, pedestrian traffic. And even, you know, for locals, this alley feels kind of like unofficial. It's haphazard. There's like not always, you know, good lighting at night. And, you know, this is even at night, a very highly used entrance to a highly used subway station. So I'm wondering, you know, with this experience of the past 5 years of this contract, with that in mind, you know, are there any changes being made to kind of fix what I personally see as kind of a persistent issue with this particular entrance?
I don't know that we have any specific plans towards that. That's not one of the issues that's been brought to my attention as being an ongoing issue with traffic flow in that area. I can tell you that we can certainly take a look at it this year. We have an inspector who is there frequently, but we can certainly take a look at that.
Yeah, and
Appreciate
for the future setup, because obviously we don't know if it's urban space who might propose on the next RFP or another group. So it's hard to say like what the next 5 years will look like as far as the actual setup of the market, if they're going to add a pedestrian walkway, what have you. But we can definitely, excuse me, put that as a note in our RFP. Excuse me. We can put that as a note to speak with future proposers, perhaps after they propose on the RFP and we have our interviews with them. This is something that we can raise with them to see how they can address.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, do you have any follow-up questions about other items?
To me, that's the main thing.
Okay. John Harris.
Yes, I'd like to know, do you have any relationship with respect to this event? Activity, I should say, with Union Square Partnership? If so, what it is? If not, would it help or be advisable for you to seek out their advice and maybe their input and their feedback on how your event has transpired in the past and what improvements they might suggest?
I mean, I would say that we communicate with the partnership on a regular basis about any concessions that are in the park, whether it's this or the Green Market or the restaurant that's currently being operated by Torch and Crown. We're always open to their feedback. If they have concerns about something, they will absolutely bring it to our attention. If we have concerns about something, we'll definitely bring it to theirs. But they don't have an active role in the drafting of an RFP. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm aware that they're not involved in the RFP. I guess it's a follow-up on maybe a previous comment. Let me change that from a question to a statement. I think it might be helpful that it sounds like your relationship might be reactive. If you have a problem, you reach out to them. If they have a problem, they reach out to you. Maybe it might be helpful if you all just get together and put your heads together to see how to see if there are any issues involving this activity and any ways it could be improved. Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
We'll bring that back to the team. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of the committee for the Parks Department? Tom, you had a question?
It was similar to John's, so I'm just gonna.
Okay. So can we just review for a second? It's my understanding from the various fire questions that we've raised and the different parks and collaborators in the parks and the fire department that the city regulations are such that as far as permitting and safety plans go, permits prior to, I don't know, January of 2025 were really limited to food preparation when it came to like fire inspections and safety. I was wondering if you had added anything or had any information to update the different rule processes and whether or not the permitting had changed at all. And whether or not you're going, I know the RFP will say you have to get the permits, but before we request that you go above and beyond the permits in an RFP, I was wondering if the city permitting process had changed and that parks required a different permit and there was a new rule set for an additional sort of fire drill to be run, access points, exit signs to be present because these are permanent structures that don't come down, or any changes related to the flammability, not just saying, hey, we want to know what materials, but requiring it as part of the RFP. And that priority will then be given to the above and beyond, or the different types of electric use materials and that kind of thing that go above and beyond just the food prep, that it's beyond the city. It is more for the permanent nature.
So if you see me looking away, I have notes on my other computer. My deputy Jeremy Holmes was not able to join tonight, but he's been our main point person who's been coordinating with both FDNY and Urban Space. So I do have some very specific details on that. So we did reach out to FDNY when these things happen and have had several meetings with them. We've had various email exchanges with them. And so, we've met with them, not just to talk about Urban Space and the holiday market, but also to talk about the farmers market, right? We want to talk about everybody that's in the park. And the market operators went over their operations and, made sure that they were complying with all the FDNY regulations. FDNY provided some feedback, which Urban Space then took back to work on it. And one of the issues that FDNY was actually working, we didn't know if FDNY was going to be here today because we certainly wouldn't want to speak to their process and their guidelines as a sister agency. It's really for them to speak to that. But they were in the process of updating their guidelines over the spring and early summer. And we were waiting for those updated guidelines so that we could share them with Urban Space and make sure that they were taking them into consideration. So we got those guidelines at the end of July 30th. So that was shared with us. And it was, they released guidelines for fire safety precautions at street fairs and similar outdoor public gatherings. So that was a whole new series of guidelines that were created. I believe I don't know if they were new or if they were edited. Again, I'm not FDNY, so I don't want to speak to that specifics. But it was shared with Urban Space, and here are some of the things they're planning on doing differently for this year. Hiring a new operations manager who is solely in charge of fire safety. Constructing new booths out of a non-combustible material. It's called magnesium oxide board. doing fire safety training, not just for their own employees, but for the vendors themselves. Having daily safety check logs for staff and vendors. One of the issues that came up when the fire happened and doing inspections is that it seemed that not necessarily every kiosk had the correct fire extinguisher. There were different fire extinguishers that were required depending on what the vendor was doing. So now all kiosks will have properly rated fire extinguishers inside, and the vendors have to be certified in their use. They will also have a full-time electrician on staff to monitor and verify their wiring plans. So because of the fact that Urban Space just got these revised guidelines about a month ago, they are still digesting all of them and working on creating, taking their SOPs and revising them as needed based on the information they got from FDNY. And they've told us that they are going to get us those revised guidelines by the end of September.
Are you, that would apply for the 2025 winter market, but.
I
this is the
understand you're
RFP.
concerned about the
We don't-
next contract.
We don't know that Urban Space, they also sit on the board of the Unions for Partnership too, so
Yes.
we can't, right, that there's a conflict there. But are you considering and soliciting other applications from other vendors?
Oh, of course we are. I just wanted, I know that you guys were very concerned, understandably, and wanting to make sure that any future markets, including whatever's going to happen in 2025, are going to be safe. So I wanted to share what they are doing. Urban Space is, all of our RFPs are open in competitive solicitations, and there are other market operators out there. We've worked with other market operators, and I anticipate that there will be more than one proposal. We don't know until we do the solicitation, but yes, we have a solicitation outreach process that, Angel as the project manager would be responsible for. So this is not I don't mean to suggest that this is a lock-in for Urban Space. And of course, the Parks Department would expect whomever is awarded the contract to have appropriate SOPs related to fire safety.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Then we will follow up. We'll have our office follow up with some of those fire regulations in general. I just want to put out there that perhaps, and we can save this for our own sort of deliberations and discussion too, but I've got some ideas about some of the fire changes that we would also like to go above and beyond city regulations. But Myrnal, do you have a question?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Would it be possible for you to share those requirements with us as well? The ones that have been shared with Urban Space?
I will reach out to FDNY, because again, I'm not sure if FDNY shared them directly with Urban Space or they were sent to us and then we sent them to Urban Space. So I will look into that and we'll get back to you.
Okay, and then have they been shared with everyone, or there was a reason?
It was just Urban Space.
It's just Urban Space.
Well, the guidelines that I mentioned are specific to these kinds of markets. So we wouldn't share them with like a restaurant concession because.
No, I mean,
With
a
other
bunch of people that
applicants
are,
pipeline to apply because this is an open
or was it,
application process.
or was it only shared with Urban Space because both incidents happened in Urban Space's markets?
Well, right now we have Andrew or Angel correct me if I'm wrong, but we have two holiday markets. One is in Union Square, one is Columbus Circle. They're both operated by Urban Space. Do we have any other active holiday markets that I'm not thinking about?
Yeah,
They're managed by other agencies.
They're not under the
There's,
policy,
in the
yes.
past, there's been a DOT Plaza for Herald Square, and then there's
Oh,
also the
sure.
Bryan Corporation, which both of those also contract with Urban Space. So for Community Board 5, Urban Space is currently the vendor for those particular holiday markets for this year. But since this is an RFP, we want to make sure that any vendor is also focused on that. And because each holiday market is structured differently, we want to make sure that our feedback is directed for what we hope to see in whatever the market is for the following 5 years. And that it's an open and fair process, and that beyond the fire problems, that there are other considerations of changes that we would like to see to improve the experience for all residents.
So I can say, like, the question was asked, did we share these guidelines with anybody else? We wouldn't take guidelines and like we wouldn't proactively take those and give them to some entity that we don't have a contractual relationship with now. That wouldn't really make sense. If your suggestion is put the guidelines or a link to the guidelines in the RFP, that is absolutely something that I think that we probably would be doing anyway. So, you know, that is that would be the appropriate place to share that information, right? In the RFP, provide a link to the information.
Yeah, thank you for providing that link. Can you just make sure, we want to make sure, I think we can do this with our office, but if you could then share us on whatever document that you have to make sure that we have a full copy of whatever those guidelines are. To make sure that whatever's being shared with you is also being shared with us, just to confirm that the materials we have are what we have. We've seen certain things, but they are not really comprehensive for the permanent nature of holiday markets because they are set up for several weeks at a time. Unlike a day set up for a street fair. They don't really list sort of the permanent nature of the temporary cities that are sort of erected and then stay there, or the flammability of markets such as Union Square, which is our focus today. I just want to really bring the conversation back. If anyone has additional questions, and then we can go to comments from the public. Okay, Michael Kavak.
Yeah, Melissa, you were reading the, from a list a few moments ago with regard to, let me quote, all the booths, all the kiosks will have fire extinguishers. Was that given to you by the vendor? By Urban Space?
So the information that I was sharing is information that we got from Urban Space about their
Okay,
plans.
so yes, is the answer to my question.
Yeah.
Yes. So does that mean that if they're selling knickknacks and not anything edible with a fire, they will have a fire extinguisher to help put out a fire next door if the fire extinguisher is engulfed in flames by the food vendor?
I will confirm that, but my understanding is, based on the notes that I have, that every single booth will have a fire extinguisher.
On July 4th, weekend, I was by Urban Space, who had told us that they would have fire extinguishers at their booths in the park that I was at, that they were running. Only 2 out of 3 of the food guys with the heating apparatus had them. No one else did, not even a third one with the heating apparatus. So 2 out of 3 out of 20 had fire extinguishers.
Where was this?
It doesn't matter. Urban Space.
Well,
Mike, we're really trying to restrict the questions just to the RFP and the request for new proposals.
Okay, forget the question.
Coming through. Okay, are there any requests for questions, very specifically, not for our discussion, which we'll have? We generally have more of a conversation on RFPs, but again, is there a question that has not been answered before we move into public comment and conversations? Tom?
What would, and maybe I'm just not understanding, what would be the conditions where you wouldn't include in the RFP the new guidelines from the fire department? Like, wouldn't that just be given that you would, 'cause you keep saying we might, or we may, I don't know, are you just, why wouldn't that be included in the RFP? I'm just confused why the new guidance wouldn't be included. Like, what circumstances would cause that not to be complete? I'm just, or are you just?
So I'm just trying to speak generically, right? Our RFPs are drafted by members of our team, and it's a group process, right? So there's not one person that writes an RFP. It's drafted, it's reviewed by a number of people. I'm not comfortable just universally saying, of course, it's going to be there, because it's not entirely up to me. It's a group decision. I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense for it to be there. I just can't, I'm not comfortable going before the community board and saying, I guarantee it will be in there.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
I just, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, are there any urgent questions that we cannot answer in our own deliberations where there is additional information that we have to seek? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up for public comment. Are there any members of the public who would wish to speak on the topic of the RFP for Union Square's holiday market? If so, please raise your hand or ask to speak if you're in the room and wait to be recognized by the chair. Okay, seeing none, I will now take the committee into business session. As a reminder, please direct all your comments to the chair. The goal of this is to tell the Parks Department what we would like to see included. Is there anything that has not been raised already that we want? So just to summarize from the questions, we have our concerns about the fire safety, which we already have really enumerated pretty succinctly in our prior resolutions. We can also add additional information about what we'd like to see for this park. We also have the transportation question about that subway stop. We want to make sure that the guidelines for the fire steps may be linked. Other than those two things, are there other items about solicitation of the design, the types of vendors, the installation timeframe, the footprint, the noise, the hours of operation? Right, we've been very focused on fires, but is there anything else that we'd like to see? Would we like to see a booth for small business owners, or the promotion of perks materials, or the splitting of revenue from this to stay more with Union Square and this particular park versus other parks? Are there any other things like that that we would like to see?
Yes, out of curiosity, to what extent is all of this to do with our list of 1 to 5? What do we call that then? Matrix. Metric,
Yeah,
Yeah.
our matrix is
matrix, right?
just to review, it's meant to guide conversations about how we think about public installations and marketing events and sort of all events in our parks.
So this applies to that.
It can apply to that, but it's not sort of something that is like religious that we necessarily follow.
We used to.
Are there any concerns about the service of alcohol? Okay, well, I have some concerns beyond the fire stuff. I would like to see the environment committee, our generator be like to reflect that any electric stuff be environmentally sound, that we don't use gas or diesel powered generators, that we really try to move to the battery operated generator. I would like to see that the dumpsters get moved to be the smallest footprint possible. I think we should ask for the smallest and shortest timeline for the installation period, because though that's gotten shorter over time, the installation period does seem to take a long time, and the parking around Union Square tends to be pretty chaotic. I'm gonna make sure that any new vendor is conscious and aware of the load in and the load out. Prior RFPs, acknowledge that, but they also limit it to not parking on parkland. They don't say don't park in bike lanes. And it would be nice to not have people park beyond a certain time frame in that, because there can be some changeover. It is so busy at holidays. All the safety stuff that we required. I don't know if anyone feels differently about sort of the layout or footprint beyond those fire safety concerns or having exit signs. But I think that would be something important to ask. I think we should definitely ask to have, much like our prior RFPs, last year, led by our own call for the restaurant, to make sure that we are in communication with parks to continue to be updated on when it actually goes out, and that the selection process to have a little bit more consideration of who that vendor is, to make sure that it's an open process. I think that we should have the vendors be as close to, a New York City market that we want to see, and many of the other items that are on the matrix. It was similar to things that we've heard before. It's mostly repeating things that we ask for generally. Does anyone have anything else to add?
I've never had to use a porta potty around there because I live a block and a half away. I don't know what's the situation like. Like Tina.
They're permanent.
The parks.
Is this-
In the current RFP, is there any guidance for the provision of restroom facilities? Or is there a request for that to be included in the layout? And
Did you say restaurant or refuge?
Restrooms, bathrooms. Is that
Um,
in the,
Andrew, do you, or Angel, do you know the answer to that question?
Sorry, I just muted him. Hold on a second.
That's your question.
It's not. The reason is because typically the proximity between the bathrooms that everyone uses at across the street, Department of Health doesn't require them to have additional restrooms because of the distance. They typically, patrons use the restrooms at Whole Foods.
oh, that,
Patrons and
yeah,
staff,
so
I
that's
think.
that's a private establishment. So to your knowledge, it's not currently in the RFP and you're not requesting that.
For them to build a restroom for the public as part of the market?
Or to include one, or that you'll give priority to applicants who do.
But just have a porta potty, you don't have to, it's gonna be great if you
Yeah, it
did,
wouldn't
but.
be,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be building we wouldn't be building something for, you know, for a 1 month operation. It sounds like you're asking, can we consider asking for porta potties? We'll certainly
Yeah, you
take
are
that.
serving food there.
Yeah, you're serving food, alcohol, and there is a significant additional population. They have like fancy porta potty trailers. Okay,
Yeah,
so bring us back.
I'm aware. Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah,
like I said, we can certainly take that back and take that into consideration. The one thing that I'm just thinking about is, you know, to your point, it is a very, it's a very tight space. And so we would have to think about where they would go. They would obviously have to be serviced on a regular basis. But we'll certainly take it back and think about whether or not we think it makes sense to make that request.
You might have to sacrifice a booth or two, but you can make space for a porta potty.
okay, Myrna, I'd like to bring this back into actual committee conversation. Please direct comments to the chair. And things that we would like to see, considering like footprint, installation, time, hours, use, manner. Catherine.
Yeah, so what might be helpful, I know the RFP is gonna be issued, but there should be a way to allow the very local community that lives there, the residents, the businesses, to give you input on the holiday market. They're the closest to the market. There should be ongoing feedback opportunity for people, I mean, I've experienced the holiday market since I was in college, right? For many decades now, I'm old. Anyway, the point is that feedback from your localized community can only help improve the quality as well as the anchoring of the.
So you're saying asking that the Parks Department, when considering RFPs, perhaps
Seek in this
consider.
particular space, it may not apply to all holiday markets, but in this particular space, it definitely applies.
Okay, to take into consideration, I think that this is the meeting at which we're also airing, the public did not come to this particular meeting, but that is.
The public didn't come to this particular meeting, but the RFP process, the idea that you're moving to a new another chapter in the holiday market, there should be some real ability to hear input from new neighbors. There's a significant amount of new businesses in the area. There's just rapid landscape of change that could help the market in ways that we couldn't imagine. So
Right, I think that it's possible for us to request that priority be given both in the RFP process to vendors who maybe solicit in their thing, like ongoing things as the market is happening and it's top of people's minds of congestion, or I can't go to the bathroom, or the line's too long, or I can't get to the subway. Or
not just the challenges, but the imagining.
Yeah,
Right?
okay, thank you. So, does anyone have anything else that they would like to ask for, solicit, in the interest of time?
And to give some preference maybe to localized.
Local vendors.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I
like that idea.
Yeah.
So,
Does anyone have any concerns about sort of signage, sound, installation, that type of stuff?
Not so much signage, sound. or-
Please wait to be
oh,
recognized
sorry.
by the chair.
I'm not recognized, sure.
Myrna.
I mean, it's, as far as noise concerned, levels are concerned, I mean, it's a pretty relatively tame holiday market. I was just wondering, maybe this is completely unrelated, but all that flooding that happens on the north side of 14th Street, you know, there's always water standing there, especially if it snows, then it gets like even worse. And then when people generally jump over it onto, you know, the bus lane to cross over to Whole Foods to use the restroom maybe. Who could be responsible for cleaning that up or for drainage over there? Is that the DOT? Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
don't, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, we can include that in our letter as far as access and weather and making sure. I've got concerns about sort of the footprint and passability that I would just love to see included generally, but I think we've raised most of these concerns. Charlie, if you might want to say something or perhaps a motion.
You mentioned something earlier about some sort of split and benefiting the park. I was just curious to hear what figure I learned.
So generally, I think the Parks Department can confirm this, that the money in the contract that gets issued in the past has been a split with the vendor. But once that money goes to the Parks Department, it doesn't stay within the Parks Department budget and it doesn't stay within Union Square's location and the Union Square budget. Am I correct in that understanding? What's that?
I'm not aware, it may exist, so we can get back to you on this. I'm not aware at the moment of any agreement with the partnership on any revenue sharing. The overwhelming majority of our concessions, if like 90% or so, maybe even more, the revenue goes directly into the city's general funds to pay, firefighters, cops, pave the roads, what have you. So we can look into it. We don't personally. I don't really deal with the partnership side of the concessions world. But if you want to include that in your letter, and we can definitely reach out.
Great. How do people feel about including that as a request? So it's not exactly an RFP, it's more of a general ask for concessions. That we would like some of the money to stay with the particular park location. And
Yeah, I feel like we actually spoke about this when we discussed the RFP for concessions within the park in general, so if it's possible, great. I know it's a little unusual, but
I think, I believe strongly in consistently asking as a community board for the
Yeah.
things that we want, and someday we may be listened to. Myrna.
We take it one step further and say, could all the money be within parks and then some of it allocated to Union Square?
But
Tom.
the issue with that is then we're about 30 minutes about to have a conversation about how we're not liking that happening with a certain park. Like there is a certain thing where there's,
Let me just interject for a
it's the
second. So
road.
currently, Union Square Park, there is a bid, it is not a conservancy. So the
There you go.
management of the actual park and all of the maintenance and structures, capital improvements, PEPS officers, that is really like trash pickup. It's really managed by the Parks Department. The Union Square Partnership is the bid for the area. They are seeking a conservancy. They hope to expand and do that. And they do step in and provide additional services and some landscaping and programming. However, they are not a conservancy. So it is a different structure and it is a different matter as far as how things get paid for and how things will get paid for, because their agreement with the city, if they do become a conservancy, which we will hopefully see it in future time, is going to be different. So the thought is more that because this is Union Square and the residents of Union Square offering up a large amount of space for a very prolonged period of time for an additional congestion element during the holiday season, that in exchange, then some of that money should go to capital improvement items, and then could then maybe be allocated towards budget things like replacing the pipes underneath the park, which are very leaky and may leak into the subway. Or it's an item that we've heard previously.
I understand all that. What I would say is with all of it going to it, this is part of the advantage of being Union Square is the position it has. And I don't know if you ever worked for a parks department before, because I have. So what happens is the centralized parks tend to get more funding because of things and ability for this, which then leads to adrift in the maintenance of it. Doesn't mean that there's playgrounds in other parts of the city, even within the district, that would not, you know, you can take that money and benefit too, that wouldn't have the ability to run this event. So, you know, and I think, you know, when we talk later, and once again, I understand it's a different situation, but it's the same concept of the slippery slope of, hey, you get to have this money and you can move the park and improve the park by making this money. Becomes a slippery slope of, oh, we want to improve the park more. Let's have new event. Let's improve the park more. Where if you spread that out, it acts almost as, you know, like, I'm not saying
Okay,
put no
I
money.
think I understand that you're talking about sort of an equity issue and an overuse issue simultaneously. Would
It's a
with an
cycle.
adjustment, just so we can get to consensus again, I'd really like to wrap this conversation up and have a motion in a minute.
Point of order.
Please,
I understand, we're discussing something, I understand.
What is the point of order that you'd like for me to?
So we're having a discussion where you can say the chair would want to, but if you keep saying you would want to provide the conversation, where you keep. My point of order is, I think the discussion should be had. I don't think it should be, if you're saying the chair is saying the conversation, and you want to take it to the vote to end conversation, we can. But otherwise, can you please at least just frame like, we're trying to drive in terms of
It is the role, my determination is that it is the role of the chair to make sure that we're staying on topic and driving towards consensus and driving towards an outcome and a resolution. That is my goal in trying to keep everything focused on the resolution, what we are asking for. In the interest of time, it is 6:55. We have two more things, including we've got an agenda item and a new business to get to. So what I'm hearing from you is perhaps in order, in the sense of consensus, instead of having all of the money stay with Union Square and what we asked for, the revenue share, perhaps we just want to say that all of it stays within the park, the parks fund or of the city, and that perhaps a portion of that then is dedicated for Union Square and a split, which is something that we have done before. We're on record, they're the presidents for doing this in an RFP letter. Would that be agreeable to people? If that's something people could vote for? Like, be a show of hands. Who would vote for? Got 2, 3, 4, maybe.
I know we're pressed for time. I don't understand what's going on in this respect. I don't see how this RFP usually involves the provider of the service and the park. I don't understand how this issue pertains to the person providing the service. I don't see how it's germane to the RFP.
So the RFP is going to then outline the contract
Right.
and revenue share.
And-
We're asking the Parks Department in considering what their vendors are
Right.
offering in their revenue share. This is a little bit of a different matter because it does involve the city, but we've asked for it previously in prior RFPs just to get us on record as a policy change that we would like to see overall, and that
So
the money stay within the park in some way.
So we will, just to be clear, so I know what I'm voting on. In deciding what vendor we pick, one of the considerations will be what revenue they will be providing.
Well,
for the-
it's our hope.
I
I think
don't
we're
understand.
mostly just going on record
Right.
that we hope, this is how we've done it in the past, is that we have a letter and
Right.
we hope that most of this, though it is a larger city issue, that's not
You know what,
necessarily
let's make it
included in this
simpler. In
contract.
2 sentences, can you tell me what you asked us to vote on
Asking you to vote for an item,
with the RFP specifically? That's all.
so this is the RFP thing, but in our letter of things we'd like to see included, and then general comments about this.
Okay, so letter, not a resolution.
That is how we've done it previously, but it's
Okay.
a resolution about the letter itself.
Okay.
And it'll have enumerated, the structure generally is enumerated things. We can also discuss whether that is the structure that we had used previously.
I'll vote for it. I don't understand it, but I'll vote for it.
So the item would be, as one of the items, even though it doesn't necessarily make it into the RFP, that we would once again go on record advocating that a share of the money stay within the Parks Department.
Yes.
The
I'll
language
vote
on
for
that is what is the question now that is up for dispute, that I don't know that we have consensus on, whether we want it to stay a portion with the Parks Department, a portion with Union Square. We've asked previously, I think the exact language is with staying closer to Union Square as a portion, and then the rest can go to the city and city general fund. Charlie, I'm gonna go to you first.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like we probably have consensus on any revenue split staying within the Parks Department as a whole, but I do hear the concerns about, sort of virtuous or vicious cycle depending on where you do it from. As it pertains to other parks, maybe not getting enough funding. So that's
Yeah,
that's
there's,
why I'm kind of iffy on the second part of the question.
yeah, there's an equity split that's very much real, which is why it's not necessarily everything stays with this particular park, but we want the money that is raised from this to go to parks maintenance in general in the city. Our parks are wildly underfunded in our city budget, so, parks money has been allocated for other things at various points in time, so that is a conversation that's happening in policy laws.
Under what mechanism?
Please wait to be recognized by the chair. Vernal, did you have a?
I was just gonna second what Charlie is saying. I think that would make sense, because it sort of takes care of what Tom was saying, was that if you put it in the Parks Department, then, if the fund goes to the Parks Department, then, it takes care of the equity issue to some extent. Right now, the parks are underfunded. I'd be happy leaving out the carve out the unique square part.
Okay, would it be amenable to the committee if we included just more vague language and not like some portions stay with parks? And keep it a little bit more vague without stipulating exactness, but whatever. Is that okay as part of just generally we want this money to stay with parks, keeping it closer to that language?
Is this part of the art?
Tom,
Is this part of the RFP? Because what I don't understand is what mechanism does the vendor have to dictate what, if they're doing a split with the parks gets the money. So are we asking, are we dictating to the parks, hey, parks want to do this? Or are we dictating the vendor? And if we're dictating to the vendor, under what mechanism can they do this? And also, is this something we want to take up with the Parks Department as a separate piece? Or is this part of the RFP? I don't understand how the vendor can give the money. They don't
This is-
dictate.
okay, so again, this is a question that we've already heard from our other esteemed colleague. The question is a matter of us, it's a little bit separate because this was an opportunity for us to hear a parks concession. There's an opportunity for Community Board 5 to go on record and say that we would like to advocate as a policy change at the city level that for concessions in parks in general, as a policy matter, right? We're talking about a resolution. This is our overall comment on the RFP. Some of our comments will be at a high level of concessions in general, which is what this particular matter is about. Some of our questions will then be, hey, add these things to go inside of the RFP that you are asking vendors to do. This is a more global question. The more specific question we can also get into if you would like for the level of split of revenue sharing or stipulation on the economic stuff. We tend to stay out of that piece of it other than to say, hey, we want the parks to actually get parks money. If we are raising money for the city, we would like the parks to be taken care of at an appropriate level. So there's two items here, but this is our opportunity to go on record because we are unlikely to do a different concession unless something comes before us. But it's our chance and opportunity as a Parks, Public Spaces and Environment Committee to go on record about how revenue split. And as a policy question, we would like for it to stay with parks. That is the structure of this. It's how we've structured letters in the past. It's how we structured the RFP, our comment a year ago, where it's both what we would like to see in the RFP. In that past resolution, there are also requests and stipulations for the Parks Department to have an ongoing conversation with us and update us about the process and timeline and to come back with when they have picked their proposals and people have come in. That's something that we're also following up with from the Union Square restaurant proposal from last year. So these are all things that go into the resolution. They're not necessarily things that we want to go into the RFP language that goes to the proposees. If that is the right term there. Okay. Is there anyone online who has any comments? Todd.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So the issue of in these situations where the Parks Department is making decisions about our premium parks. I mean, Union Square Park, quite honestly, doesn't look, even though it's made tremendous improvements, it's not on the level of Madison Square Park and even Union Square Park. And that's because it doesn't have a conservancy. And citywide, when the Parks Department is managing the parks, they tend to under-support the actual park itself. They tend to focus more on the city. I think Libby is right. If we should absolutely take this opportunity to comment alongside or separately in this letter on the idea that as long as the Parks Department is managing Union Square Park, that we should insist, because look, our job is to focus on our district. If we're not going to come out and say that they've got to structure their deals with their concessionaires in such a way that some of the money is going to be set aside, then who's going to do it? Our elected officials, maybe, right? The Parks Department and our public, I think, will benefit. We should absolutely put this in the letter and make it clear that a certain portion of what comes out of their negotiations is allocated to Union Square Park. I completely support Libby.
Thank you. Okay, are there any additional comments? Do I have a motion?
Hi, can you hear me? This is Andrew from the Parks Department again.
We're in business session. Only members of the committee are allowed to speak.
Okay, I just have a comment. Just let me know when. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher,
I move that we draft a letter based on the things that we discussed in this meeting.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, shall we take it to a vote?
I didn't hear the end. I couldn't read it. Can I hear the motion, please?
Yeah, Chris.
I move that.
We write a letter based on what we discussed in the meeting.
Yeah, you gotta be more specific than that.
We write a letter based on who just said, and we'll pay.
Based on the stuff we discussed in the meeting, a letter based on what we discussed. Okay, that's the motion.
Get a little bit more specific. And Charlie, you wanna read?
Charlie.
Sure. So what I've taken notes on, what we discussed in the meeting, that we'd like to include in this letter, concerns related to fire safety, pedestrian traffic flow, the environment, specifically battery operated generators, sanitation in terms of dumpster size, installation time to further shorten the load in and load out process and prevent truck parking in bike lanes. Also, we want updates on the RFP and selection of vendors, that process. Also bathroom trailers, so people don't have to go at the Whole Foods. And a potential public feedback process so that people who use this can actually, let the city know how it's going. And then some sort of revenue split where the funds from this holiday market go back to benefit the Parks Department.
Hopefully with some staying.
And hopefully with some benefiting Union Square, which is the park where the funds were generated.
We talked about footprint, right?
Footprint as well, I'll add that.
And the load in,
Yes,
the shorter duration.
yes.
We take it over. Charles,
Aye.
Catherine,
Yes.
John Harris,
Yes.
Libby,
Yes.
Mike Kibak,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Todd Shapiro,
Yes.
and I am yes. Do we record the?
Yeah, I'm gonna let them vote. They
Okay,
don't count for quorum, but I
Okay.
will allow
okay, good.
virtual
So
voting.
Athena, Julia,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
that's it.
Okay, I believe the motion passes. Charlie
Yes.
will write that up for us, and if you could get that to me by the end of the weekend, so we can refer it to exec, where it will then go on to the full board. Thank you, Parks Department, for coming and talking to us about that. We look forward to talking to you more, as the process moves forward, and you will get our full resolution, once it has been voted on, either way, by the full board next week.
We
Thank
did
you.
have
There was
one
just-
piece of new business that we just wanted to add. That's what Andrew was alluding to. Can we do that quickly?
Yes.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So I think I'm off mute still, so let me know otherwise. So we're intending on releasing a new RFP for the current night market that's operating under the TUA. It'll likely happen, at the start of next year. So obviously we'll go through the typical channels of reaching out to you and sending you the 40-day community board and borough president notice. We're also happy to come back at that time in the future and talk about that RFP, but we just wanted to kind of put that out there and put that on your radar.
Thank you very much for that. You mean the night market that is currently happening? One of the nights is tonight,
Correct.
right? And you, same one? Great. Thank you so much for,
Yes.
letting us know and getting that on our agenda early.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, and then also if you could just, a reminder, if you could just follow up and send us whatever those fire communications that you've had to make sure that we have all of the information that we can possibly have about the fire safety, because that is our number one primary concern, where we think that there is, lots of improvement to be made to make sure that everyone stays safe at the holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to our second item. Our second item is the Penn Plaza pedestrian bridge project, that's West 33rd Street. And the presentation, I believe that we have, or not up here, yes. We have a presentation on this, and as a reminder, please hold questions until the end. Wait to be recognized by the chair, and then we'll ask questions, and we'll move it to public comment and our deliberations. That might be helpful, actually. I don't think that's possible. We can just work. You want to just introduce yourselves and who you're with and give a little bit. And again, just keep it brief in the interest of time.
We will go very fast.
There you go.
But hello, Parks, Public Spaces and Environment Committee. But we feel we need some good energy. Anyway, it's great to come and see you again today. We've been working with you, this particular committee, for over 10 years. This is Audrey Wilson and I'm Judy Kessler, and we're part of the Vornado team that has been working on all of the Penn District public realm improvements, which we hope that you are all enjoying. Anyway, from our first pilot of Plaza 33, where you all were instrumental in helping us work with DOT to close 33rd Street for the first time, to our One Penn Euler in 2018, and our distinctive sidewalk project in 2022, and our Plaza 33 design in 2023. We've worked together to transform the neighborhood, and it's been 100% funded by Vornado. So thank you for your collaboration and input. We're here to briefly present the design of a publicly accessible sky concourse across the western edge of Plaza 33. And it goes before the Public Design Commission on September 15th, so right after your September 12th meeting. PDC is looking for your feedback on the bridge design prior to their meeting. Just for context, we want to spend a minute on what we've accomplished together in the district. As you know, Vornado has spent 40 years purchasing and assembling 10 million square feet above and around Penn Station.
Okay, so I will run quickly through the improvements that Vornado has been hard at work at. This is the Moynihan Train Hall. It's a public-private partnership between the MTA and Vornado. So it's delivered on budget and on time. And we think it is very beautiful. We are incredibly proud of it. This is the East End Gateway, another PPP with the MTA and Vornado. It's the new 33rd Street entrance. And providing Long Island Railroad Concourse a little grade under 33rd Street. We also have the 32nd Street entrance into Penn Station that was redesigned with Foster and Partners. And this includes one of 3 new ADA accessible elevators that Vornado has installed that provide access into Penn Station. On the right, we have the sidewalk expansion and distinctive paving that Vornado has done around the blocks surrounding Penn 1 and Penn 2, which includes and it's widened about 10 feet into 7th Avenue to accommodate all pedestrian flow and make it a safer and more viable district. We've also redeveloped the POPs and made them more inviting. We've added about 800 new seats into the plazas and public spaces in the Penn District. And in addition, we've added approximately 100 trees to the neighborhood, which is another thing we're very proud of. We've done the redevelopment of Penn 1. And in the image on the right, you see our hospitality focused lobby. What used to be defensive architecture has been reinvented into something that welcomes people into the buildings. We've done a similar thing at Penn 2, redeveloping this building as well and creating a nice amenity package for all to enjoy. This is just a brief look at some of the amenities between the 2 buildings, focused on food and beverage, conferencing, third spaces for people to enjoy. And now we have the backdrop of our sky bridge that we're talking about today, our pedestrian concourse. So as many of you know, this is 33rd Street, what used to be a vehicular street, is now a plaza, that's part of the DOT Plaza program. This is, you see in the backdrop, the 33rd Street entrance that we're talking about. This is one of the pop spaces, and you can see this image is taken from the street, and it is now a fully activated, beautiful plaza. We work with the BID 34th Street Partnership, and they do all the activations over at Harold and Greeley Square. They do a really nice job for us, activating with silent discos and live music and you name it. And we're very happy to have them be a partner with us in Penn. And this here, the image on the left is the plaza on a regular day. And on the right is the images of people enjoying a silent disco that we hosted recently. And I'll turn it over to Judy.
The Sky Concourse has been part of our plans from the beginning. And the design of it, sitting over the western end of Plaza 33, does not interfere with or change any of the amenities in the plaza, any of the trees, any of the seating. It was designed by Foster and Partners for us. You can see, I guess you can see where it sits between 1 Penn and 2 Penn. It connects the second floor of each of the buildings. So, and we have a slide on that coming up to show you, how you would go through the buildings. We'll talk about the outside of it first, and then we'll talk about the inside, because it is a publicly accessible amenity once built. So the design has these a curved stainless steel bottom, very highly polished and very sensitive angles, so that it can create an Anish Kapoor style moment or event when you go underneath it, or even from the sides, and that it becomes an art piece, in the middle of this very busy district, a place where people can pause and take selfies or Instagram of the moment, or just be pleasant to walk underneath. The bridge is less than 15 feet wide, so it's not a big thing to walk underneath. The symbolic steel arches make it so that we have minimized the structural elements and retain, as much openness as possible. And then our glass, which will be the low iron glass, is highly transparent. So that you can see through to, any iconic buildings or, whether it's to Empire State in one direction or to Moynihan Train Hall in the other direction. And then the accent lighting will be soft. It's shown a little bit bright here just to highlight it, but the idea is that we want it to feel very welcoming and part of the district. And the light color temperature is the same as the light color temperature of everything else. And it just while we're on that other slide, it doesn't interfere with the lighting. We've designed all the lighting of the plaza to account for the bridge. So that there'll be adequate lighting on the pavement underneath the bridge. So from the inside, it's publicly accessible. We'll show you a plan in a minute of, how you get to it, but it's open to the public. And then the next slide, you can see that it's like a beautiful place for people to come through and they can enjoy, looking at the activity in Plaza 33 and beyond, or looking to the west toward Moynihan and Hudson Yards. Functionally, no, that's okay. Just functionally, what the bridge does is it connects. It allows people to travel through and have a great experience, but it connects all these amenities that are also public. And so when you think about how crowded Plaza 33 can become, and you think about that east-west traffic along 33rd Street, going, to and from the train station, to and from work, this means that you don't have that friction of people trying to cross Plaza 33. If they go from over here where we have a 300-person town hall to a meeting space here, or they're just walking through, the whole area operates on so many different levels with Penn Station below, and then the subways, and then the grade level, and then the plaza levels. It just, gives people one more way to move that streamlines things and makes the area more pleasant. So the bridge is going to be accessible for both Penn 1 and Penn 2. This purple line kind of shows how you would, come in from the Penn 1 lobby or from the Penn 2 lobby and make your way through. There's restaurants, coffee shops. Hopefully you guys have, been to some of them. The conference spaces, are available for anybody to rent, not just our tenants. And they're used by people that have nothing to do with our buildings, but because they want to be in this location. And when you think about, how busy Penn is and how convenient it is, it's a good, it's become good for the city to have this available. We think the bridge is additive to the, to the pedestrian, to the user, to when people using the plaza, one more thing. Oh, what I wanted to just go back to is why we're here. Again, this is part, do we have anything? Oh, the process. Oh, this pedestrian bridge was part or is part of the general project plan. The general project plan is not a dead document, it's alive, regardless of what you read in the papers. And it's always been part of our design. It's approved as part of the general project plan. The general project plan, went to this community board. The community board sat on what's called the CACWAG, the Community Advisory Group, and had a lot of comments. Nobody commented very much on the bridge, but our design meets exactly the design guidelines in the general project. And now we've been working with DOT for the past couple of years to kind of, bring it, the refined design to reality and approval. And therefore, we're coming to you as required, but also because we, like your input. Before it goes to PDC, PDC is looking for your, design, comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to go back and share that.
Okay, thank you, for your presentation. Now we will go to questions from the members of the committee. Catherine has done her due diligence on this, so I will ask
Yeah.
if Catherine has any questions for you first.
So I sent the committee my notes based on what I read. Thank you for the presentation. So the first, we have just a few practical questions. So up under the actual, and I had to pull back, this is a pedestrian bridge, right? It's not a sky bridge, it's a pedestrian bridge.
Yes.
And so
not a what?
it's not a sky bridge.
It's lower to the ground.
It's on the second floor, right? So it gives you access to places like the Landing Restaurant,
Yes.
and it's publicly accessible. So up underneath the actual bridge, is there public seating, or how does it change the landscape of Plaza 33?
So I don't know if the seating does not go there now. It's kind of where the bollards are, that bollard line, on the western edge. So it doesn't change any of the seating.
Okay.
And it's also just, I don't know if you're gonna ask this, but it's 18 feet above the ground, which I meant.
Okay, 18 feet above.
16 plus on
I thought it's higher at one end and lower at the other.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
between
18 is
14
the middle.
and a half and 20.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah, so the other part of it is it's public space. Do you know what the capacity of the bridge, so what I think of is that the bridge relieves pedestrian, in a way, relieves pedestrian foot traffic in the public and allows more connectivity, more options and opportunity for connectivity. But do you know what the people capacity of the bridge is and the operating hours?
The operating hours we know, but the capacity it's not designed to be a place of public assembly.
Okay.
It's not designed for somebody to have a party. Our intent is not to have any seating there. It's really just for people to walk through and enjoy. And so to use some train terms, right, the throughput capacity, I'm sure you could get, I'm gonna guess, 100 to 400 people through every minute, because it's not, that's a guess, but the hours would be consistent with when the building is open and actually even go later. So we're talking about being open from 8 in the morning until 9 at night, Monday through Friday, which is actually later than our buildings.
And then on the weekend?
Our restaurants are nothing's open on the weekend. I mean, nothing inside the building, so.
So
Catherine, do you have more questions?
can I make a comment or just questions?
Saved comments for our discussion, but
That's fine.
right now, does any other member of the committee have any additional questions for the presenters to contribute to our discussions, but about this project? Or no?
My question is very basic. Why are you coming to the community board?
It's part of the
Fire.
process. So PDC wants to hear from you.
I see. So there's no special permit, there's no ULURP, no nothing. And then it was already, the community board's already opined on the general plan. And this was part of that,
Yeah.
but this is not as of right.
It is.
It
not
is.
as of right.
The plaza is as of right, but the bridge is.
I want to try to answer you as best I can, because this is kind of a very unique situation. In the general project plan, this whole designs was not developed exactly this way. So now, it said, it shall be transparent, it shall be no wider than this, no taller than this, it had those types of parameters, but it didn't you know, nobody saw before. The arch, the illumination, you know, the stainless underbelly. And so, you know, so it goes to Public Design Commission and therefore to you all.
So, thank you.
Are there other questions for our presenters? Michael Payback.
Yeah, could I ask why this bridge is necessary? What is, other than aesthetically, it's pretty? What's the necessity of it?
Thank you for calling our bridge pretty.
Can't hear.
Me too.
Can't hear. You're right here, I still can't.
Thank you for calling our bridge pretty. We think it is very pretty.
Thank you for calling.
The bridge pretty. Thank you.
What about the answer to my question?
So. Listen, the Penn district, I'm gonna answer this,
Take your time.
you know, to the best I can, but I think there are a lot of answers possible. One of them is that, you know, like Times Square, the Penn district is enormously busy. There's, you know, maybe not all night long, maybe not, you know, all afternoon long, but certainly in the mornings and the evenings. And you can see, you know, this crush of people. It's always been a place that people from the beginning have wanted to flee. And I remember when we put in that first Plaza 33 pilot, people looked at us, looked through the fences while we were constructing it. And they said, oh, this must be for a movie. This isn't for us. And then when we first opened it and people found there is a place where we can sit in the Penn district. People were uncomfortable at first. We don't sit here. This is the Penn district. We have to leave. And so everything that we've done, oh, no, I don't want to say everything, but, you know, has been around making it a more commodious, more hospitable place, which is good for us as a landlord, as an owner, and it's good for the city and it's good for the public. And this bridge is just one more piece of that, making it nicer for everybody.
It's nice. Can I just follow up with the other half of my question, please? So that's really great. I love it. Does Vernado own that big empty lot right across the street from you?
Yes, we do.
It does. Now, why isn't that taking preference? There was a great hotel there that was knocked down, a historic hotel, a hotel that meant a lot to me and people who grew up in this city with a phone number that you could remember. And somebody tore it down. And you know what they left in its place? A big, empty, ugly.
But Mike, we really need to keep questions just to the topic at hand and the item that we
I'm
need to
done.
have comment on. We're already pretty late.
I'm done, but I can see them spending all of this bucks over here and a big ugly hole in the ground that's sitting there looking really crap right across the street from this lovely bridge that we're gonna have here. So the juxtaposition of the two is hard for me, you know what I mean?
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Todd, I see that you have your hand raised.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes, Phil.
Okay, so Mike got to one of my questions, which is what is driving the need for this bridge? I thought what I heard was that aesthetic reasons and a need to improve access. I just wonder, just adding to Mike's question, is there any documented metrics or pedestrian studies as to whether or not the addition of this bridge is going to help people in the park or just in the two buildings that are going to be open? You know, what do the metrics say about it actually improving that? And then the other, which I think for our community board, which is always interested in the public realm as a whole, a holistic whole, I'm just looking at the picture that you have. For this kind of improvement, the single most valuable thing, and again, I'm seeing this for the first time now, I need to think about it, but the single most important thing with any park, and I do approve of the idea that you've improved the the Penn Station area and you have a place to sit, which is a big improvement, but is the idea of open space. Looking at this picture, I mean, I think that's Madison, I think that's the Empire State Building behind the bridge. So I wonder about that. Aesthetically, I wonder whether you took into account the fact that the east-west views from the park are being obstructed by this new bridge. One can differ about the aesthetics of the bridge or the skyway, whatever you're calling it. I am concerned about that. I wonder, impeding the views up and down east and west on the avenue, is a concern that I would have, and taking away the precious views. The city is claustrophobic enough as it is. But I have an open mind about it, and I wonder how some of my other Parks Committee members feel about that, and whether or not that issue was raised in your deliberations about adding this bridge to that area.
Thank you, Todd. Would you answer the question about the view? I have a similar question too about the angle of their seating on that western edge of the bridge. If you look up, it's not just the treescape, it's the far side of it. I believe there is some seating, having just been in the plaza recently, and that if you're looking up, I believe the angle might be a little bit more obstructed. So I was curious what your views of that. Similar to Todd's question of like the blocking the Empire State Building when you look east from the western edge of the bridge.
So firstly, thank you for the questions. In the general project plan, there was, extensive environmental review. The environmental review included visual impact on, important resources such as, Moynihan Train Hall and the Empire State Building. And in fact, the future buildings that get built, are going to need to be cut down to the Empire State Building. So this bridge, without the arches, but as a transparent bridge, was determined to have no, there was no material impact, no significant impact, but it was not an impact in the general project plan. In addition, if you look at the before and after, see the before, and these images were not taken for this to answer this question. We didn't anticipate this question. You can see the Empire State Building is behind this other building. And so, the fact that you can't see it through the bridge is because it doesn't exist there. But you can, and so.
But I'm sorry, but this is still from farther away. I believe that there's like actual seating so that if you're close, like there's like tables and chairs. And so if you're, because it's closer, whereas that building that's blocking the lower part of the Empire State Building is like farther away, you still have that angle of vision. So I believe it's sort of like the depth perception with the angle of sight lines that is, I think that's what Todd's question was a little bit too. As far as like to what extent was the view considered in that?
So I think we did.
Can I just, I was gonna clarify a little bit, so. Another way to look at this is if you look at the new opening that NTA designed, you go up the escalator, you get a view of the Empire State Building, and its juxtaposition was intentional, is our understanding. And so now this bridge actually obstructs the scenic landmark that is the Empire State.
No, it's on the other side.
The seating, to clarify, all of the seating is east of the bridge. So we're looking east here, but the seating is all east of this bollard line here. So you're not gonna be sitting under the bridge or west of the bridge. There are no tables and chairs there. It's not.
I see. I see. I got it.
Their seats. It's also very often used for trucks to turn around and back up in, so you figured it's not a safe place for people to come and sit. So if you are seated in the plaza at any of the seats and you are looking east, you will not see the bridge. And I can, let me go to a plan.
If you're looking east,
If you're looking east,
so there's tons of seats to be considered. And got tables. And they form those up 300 times there.
And the silent disco.
Yeah.
You should hear that, they're really great.
Maybe not the best plan, but all of Plaza 33 seating is within here. And this is the bridge. We're looking east this way and west that way. So there's no seating west of it.
I see.
Right here, I'm gonna. Oh, sure. No seating west of the bridge. All of the seating is east of the bridge.
Thank you. But, but it would obstruct the view from the block.
I think when you're walking, right, there's a certain point when you're walking. That the height of your eye is not you're gonna lose a view for, a few moments. While you pass, at a certain angle, but generally, for, most of the street, you would be able to see through and look up to the. Like if you were right here, very close to the bridge, you're not gonna be able to look up and see the Empire State. But when you get to when you're over here, you could see it, and when you're over here. You can see it.
I think any obstruction would be momentary as you're going through, but it's, a lot of see-through glass. It's very minimal metal or anything that would truly obstruct a view. That's a resource.
Okay, are there any other questions from the members of the committee?
Would there be, so is the plaza, is there any need of like closure of the plaza for the construction? Like what does that look like in terms of timeline? And I don't think that's like the biggest thing, like.
Yeah, so, so we've been talking to very experienced contractor in this type of work, I don't remember any names. And they have determined, with our head of construction, that they would build a cocoon. Because, so they would build like, a scaffolding around all of the work that you could walk underneath. And then when they have like, the main picks for the heavy members or whatever, that would happen on the overnight. So when they're building the cocoon, there'll be some closure, but hopefully that will go up very quickly. And then the timeline of the construction. Do we get?
We don't know that we have a clear timeline to share, but we can.
I mean, I think the main concern there would be, it would happen over the summer. Just because during the next season, if that's closed off, it's gonna be, it becomes really hard to get to like, Long Island, the Long Island Railroad and stuff like that. Or you get super congested if you shut off that piece of the plaza.
Everything with Madison Square Garden. And it's a good one.
Thank you. Additional questions from members of the committee? Vernal.
So you mentioned the environmental impact study in the EIS, like, do you know what the threshold of an impact, of a significant impact would have been? Like, I mean, it determined this was not a significant impact, so do you know how they determined that there was no impact?
Through, a ton of standards that are part of the SECRA manual that, are not determined by us, but used for years. So that part is out of our control.
Okay, I mean, just that, we're in our experience in the past, we have sort of litigated what counts as impactful and what's not in environmental impact studies, and so we've gone back and forth with them about that.
All right, any additional questions from the committee about this before we then take it to public comment and then go to business session to actually discuss it? Michael K.
Has the construction company been chosen for this, which you didn't mention that, and if they have not, when will that happen so we can learn when they're gonna begin?
Well, there is no beginning until there's an approval. So but you know, we still have some process to go through. We're actively talking to a preferred construction contractor, but nothing has been awarded.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions from the committee about this before we go to public comment, business session? No more questions? Okay, seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to provide a comment on this proposal? Please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Okay, seeing none. I will now put the committee into business session to discuss this. Thank you very much for your presentation and for answering all of our questions.
Thank
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for reading it with you.
Lots of detail. Catherine, would you like to kick us off with your comment that you had earlier?
So I have a few comments, just want to clear up a few things. This is a good example of, this committee wouldn't normally hear necessarily this kind of proposal, but why does it make sense? I think that was my question to you when you sent me. I was like, well, why
us?
landmarks pass? But when we think of the GPP, we really do in this area and what's happening, it is a cross collaboration between transportation, landmarks and public spaces. So public spaces is absolutely the right place for this particular project to hear. But it is also noteworthy that our response will also respond to the interagency review form for the revocable consents, which is the review process at DOT. Right, and then PDCs will be another place in which, so I just wanted to clarify, like, the audience and the situation for which, and then some of this, while one Penn Plaza and 2 Penn Plaza are certainly GPP related and in the GPP, I do see these projects as they are independent. I think the language is used is that they are considered independent but related to GPP. They are not necessarily, and so just like MTA projects that will happen later on are also independent and but related. And then there was another part of this that I wanted to say something else. I wanted to say something else, but it leaves me now. But for now, I just wanted to, and I hope you got a chance to read my notes, and if you want to leave comments there, please feel free to do so or whatever. I did make, I did sort of a brief overview from what I could tell.
Great, thank you, Catherine. Are there any other members of the committee who want to have a comment, have opinions on this? I'm gonna hold on just a moment. I'm gonna hear from someone that we haven't heard from yet tonight. Gail.
Just one thing I wanted to note, I know there's a lot about the view and everything, and I think that's all really important, but one thing I sort of felt when seeing that bridge is like, with all the storms we're having and all the crazy weather, it's kind of nice to have a spot that people can kind of like duck under if they need to, or cross between buildings if they need to, and sort of be protected from some of the crazier weather events we've been seeing lately. Just want to throw that out there.
Okay, thank you for that perspective. Michael Kayback.
One more comment. I agree totally with Gail. That it's great that it looks great. It's gonna be a good thing to have, no question about it. But as part of the general project plan, general project plan must include that hole in the ground. I wish they'd take a better look at that and make that into something nice as well.
Thank you, Mike. Marnell, did you have a question?
Oh, no, not a question.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, they have these all over Tokyo too, and I kind of like it. like Gail said, it provides you an opportunity to just move within, buildings and not have to go out and break the elements, which can be nice at times. The one comment I do have is, sometimes they're not very well marked, like you put nice markers there that say, hey, here, you can take this to go down to this restaurant or this area or this building. That's always good to know, they're nicely marked.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that in any resolution, we want to have things that we would like to see, which is something that sometimes we ask for if we are gonna go one way or the other, but I'm hearing really good markations, which we frequently ask for on tops, which is the legal thing, but extra wayfinding is what I'm hearing, a big request for wayfinding, especially since a lot of public spaces that should be accessible, nobody knows where they are.
And
And
there's no,
also signage that clearly specifies that it is accessible to the public.
the public,
Yeah.
right, that's correct.
I
I just wanted to,
like to, someone we haven't heard, yeah, John Harris.
Yeah, it's actually a question.
Oh, okay.
I heard, did I hear correctly that there was a interagency, there was a jurisdictional issue here? I didn't understand, where landmarks fit to this.
This is not a landmarks,
I
there's
heard her say landmarks.
it is not, I believe that it was a land
So-
use was offered this
All right.
item, landmarks, it's not a landmark.
not landmarks,
building,
I meant
so
land use.
there is a landmark, I believe it's a landmark scenic view, I don't know that we got an actual determination on that, but the view from that subway to the Empire State Building, I think there was maybe a conversation around whether or not that was a scenic view, they're
That
not
would
actually,
be east of,
yeah, they're not actually protected, but
got it.
it is something that has come up
Okay.
in the public discourse in general, but that is why it was at land use, but it comes to us because of the public space element and the public amenities that it is providing access to. Yeah. Other comments? Todd, I see your hand is raised.
Hi, hi, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. My mic hasn't gone on the fritz. So again, I refer back to the comments I made, which stimulated at least a short discussion on the views and the idea that views and open space are something that's very worthy of our attention as a board. We can all differ on the aesthetics of this particular bridge. Everybody has an opinion, and that's to be expected. I think, Libby, there is a resolution coming due on this, right? We're going to do a resolution
Yes,
for that?
we need to write a resolution, that provides our opinion on how we feel about this and whether we want to provide a revocable consent or not, or recommendation for that.
That's what I thought. So my only comment on it is when we draft the resolution, if there's a resolution in support of it, after due deliberation, I will support it. But I do hope that the resolution will have some mention of the fact that, there was some concern about possible diminution of the east and west views. The open views up and down avenues and across streets traditionally has been something that our Parks Committee has been very protective of. It's probably worth mentioning that. And, for this sort of thing, as I said, people can differ, but I hope that the resolution will at least mention that as a concern, and that, we gave it a full and fair hearing.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Additional comments?
I just also wanted to add, it is significant to say that this is part of, the public realm investment that Bernardo has made, to the project. It is a public realm investment that they 100% fund.
The park, the box or the bridge?
The bridge and the plaza.
Okay,
Right,
so
so
you're
the-
considering
I
the
just-
bridge as an asset versus it was part of what we're saying, whether we're in favor or against.
So that again.
I think we're considering whether or not we think that it is like a public amenity or not. That's some of what the question, some of our question itself that we're meant to be hearing is whether or not we actually think it's of benefit
To
or
the
it's
public.
not a benefit to the public. So what I'm hearing from you is that you believe this is a benefit for the public.
And I'm clarifying that this is a public realm investment so that it should be a benefit to the public. That's what I'm trying to, that's why I said what I said. So, for example, one of the benefits, people talk about under, but if you commute and you can figure it out, you wanna be inside when it's winter time as much as you can. So this bridge does provide some connectivity. That's a public benefit. It also opens access to the public amenities that are inside one plaza and two Penn Plaza. There's restaurants and other public things are coming. Other businesses that people, the public, but to Mineral's point, you have to have signage that lets people know that's public, because otherwise it looks like somebody's office and you don't want to be trespassed. Okay, right? And so not to go on, but it is a public realm investment. 100% funded by Bernardo.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'll just chime in. I'm generally.
It's a public-private partnership at its best.
Yeah, I'm generally agreeable to it, for a lot of the reasons Catherine mentioned.
do you have any other like reasons that you'd want to add to the resolution? Things to
No,
include?
I mean, to her point, it's being completely funded by Bernardo, and if, unfortunately, like, if it's not used here, it's not like they're going to invest it in the vacant lot, so I think we're pretty lucky that this is being done. Yeah.
Christopher,
I move that we have a resolution that says with minor reservations, we approve of this bridge project.
Second.
Yeah.
okay, shall we take it to a vote?
Charlie,
Yes.
Julia,
Abstain.
Catherine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Libby,
Come back to me.
Mike Kibbe,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes, sorry, yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
I am a yes. Libby,
I'm a yes with some reservations.
that's not a category.
Yeah. With reservation.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming, really appreciate answering all of our questions, being so thorough.
Well, you know what they say, if they can do this, then they can do that.
Okay, Catherine will write up our resolution
I'll
on that and, yeah, draft all of that, just get it to us so we can send it, get all our. I just want,
Stop by me.
Your remarks, your notes on it.
On this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that, would you ask if anybody had any remarks, and I want to think about it.
Okay,
Well, that's fine.
Thank you.
very quickly, before we move into new business, Paul, did you have any updates that you want to provide us for the parks department in general? Anything high level that's like urgent or?
Nothing high level, nothing urgent. I was,
Could we speak louder at the other end of the table so that the machine or I can hear you clearly?
sorry. No, I have nothing high level or urgent.
No, louder.
I was just gonna give my usual safety reports with always are interested in. I can report today that
Wait, I'm gonna come over there.
I was also in another community board, I actually commented on some of the data we actually collect. And I thought that you might find some of that of interest as it relates to park inspection program and things of that nature, just so you have a better sense of what regular operations are and what any park management entity really would be kind of responsible for keeping an eye on. But I think we'll say that for another time as well, as a teaser. But I will say, what I will tell you though, based on the syringe report and the summons report, District 5 parks remain relatively safe in comparison to The rest of the borough, once again, for syringes, High Bridge Park is still, leading the leaderboard. There were, for the month of August, I got the number here somewhere, 6,749 syringes, and we only really had, 4 syringes reported in District 5. They were all in Madison Square Park, so it's really very, very good. So we're really very, very safe. There were some more tickets, in Madison, this season, but I think the Disney Park, it's like the numbers like, 4 or some other number. It's really relatively small. So we can talk about that. So once again, I'm very proud districts 4 and 5, are very, very safe based on those measures. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Paul. Does anyone have any sort of quick questions for Paul?
And if it only takes 2 minutes, will we hear about the summons, like the parks
Let's-
in the board?
Let's see, let me see if I have, just a second. What do we have that's interesting about that? So then these are out of order. The week ending, August 30th, there were 3 tickets, 3 oath summonses in Madison. Weekend of the 16th, there were 4. The weekend of the 23rd, there were 4.
That was the only park, or?
Oh, Union Square had 1, Madison had 4, that's in this community board, yes.
That's all for legal?
No, these are tickets.
Tickets, yeah.
Tickets.
Where they're from?
Variety, I don't have that deep dive, of, well, I have for the, for the borough, for the Manhattan South, but I can't say where they come from, which part, but they're variety of different alcohol, consumption, or they didn't comply with signs, a variety of different infractions. I would say that probably for Madison, unlawful use of motor scooters sounds like one of the ones they probably got. So that comes from, and week of August 2nd, I've had none that we got.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here.
And, Madison is screening the US Open tournament.
Remember?
And
Wait a minute, today was free day, free for all at US Open. I stopped by on my way. It was my day off. So I got a chance to move through. So between Fan Week and today, I feel like people had at least access to the grounds.
The actual grounds themselves.
But the Madison Square Park is such a great alignment of the mission of the parks and public programming that I think it just is a great spotlight.
Yes, and I'm also personally very, very pleased that this is an offering of, well, it's a collaboration, but this is an offering of the recreation vision of Parks and Recreation. So do that, we show movies everywhere, in all parks, all throughout the city. But this is kind of a special.
And there's a website that you can get every Monday of all the activities going on in all the parks, which I guess. Can I ask a question?
Yes, we want to keep it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a short question.
Real quick,
15
real
minutes
quick.
or less.
Fantastic.
So let me talk right away when I'm thinking of it. Do you think that the reason that there are more tickets given out at Madison Square Park, because there's more patrolling people who are eligible to give tickets than at Union Square Park, where, there's stuff going on, or at Bryant Park?
I think, well, what I would say, that there's always gonna be, the enforcement presence is always gonna be a factor. But also we have to think about, traffic, level of traffic, and how people use the space. And, Madison is a very, very different location as in comparison to Union. Union's more, it's very active, there's a lot of commerce going on, where Madison's more programmatic, thematic, and it's also introspective. So they're very, very quiet spaces. With Bryant, it's got copying everything going. So I think it's a function of the space as well, and the users. So, yeah, I was said, but having no course on too.
Okay. Tom, do you have a question for Paul Evans?
Do you think visibility as a part of it too? So Madison's very visible as you're walking through, where like Union is kind of hidden spots.
A lot of trees.
Yeah.
I don't, you'd actually have to study that. The reason why I say that is, Union it's a major transportation hub. And so that means a lot of people, maybe not park visitors, people come through, they're there. Other parks, and while there is transportation, right at Madison, I think it's less of a transit hub and more of a destination. So you really, and then you go with Bryant, and it's like, it's not even a transportation hub, I think it's got buses, but no stuff. What, no, it doesn't have stuff. So you really would have, you can think of Fifth Avenue side. Really would have to study it. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone online with any questions? Otherwise, we will move into new business. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
We should definitely, we will touch
See you next
base
month.
on all of the,
Yes. Thank you.
all of the,
Need to bring stuff we would.
the deep dive, of which we have many additional questions for you, especially prior to our next meeting
Yes.
and our very lengthy agenda. Okay. So now we move on to new business. And as our first item of new business, I circulated this to members of the committee earlier. This is a letter, that is more administrative, just formalized a lot of concerns that have come up in the last 2 years about Bryant Park Corporation. They've come up in our committee discussions, they've come up at full board, they've come up in our conversations with them and our email. This is meant to generally highlight what our concerns are with the park at a high level. We've sort of broken it out into the general programming, commercialization, and the fire safety concerns that we've had. If everyone could just take a moment to read through this and determine if there is anything. We can also have someone read it out loud to the record if we want.
I could read it out loud, because that way I'll be able to hear it. Would you like me to read it out loud?
Sure, why don't you do that? Also, Myrna, is there a way for us to put it on the screen?
Wait, let me see.
Okay, Mike, do you wanna go ahead and read it?
So here are the concerns of the community has raised. Frequency and scale of programs. There is a sense that programming within the park is increasingly out of balance with the interests the community has in enjoying the park as a passive space. Large crowds and large event footprints to accommodate them create congestion and potential disruption within and around the park. We are eager to discuss this issue with you and understand what can be done to ensure that the park can still be utilized as much as possible as a peaceful space. Number 2, commercialization. We are eager to better understand the criteria Bryant Park Corporation uses to determine when, how frequently, where inside the park, what type of footprint, how big a crowd, and which commercial entities it allows to activate in the park. The frequency, scale, and interruptive nature of these activations through the use of significant space signage and sound is increasingly concerning to us, particularly with Winter Village and Makers Market.
Makers Market.
The Makers Market.
Makers
Yeah.
Market. We also have concerns about some of the brands that have been allowed to activate in the park and whether they are brands that represent the community's values. As you are aware, our district park space is a precious resource that is also meant to be enjoyed by most people most of the time without commercial interference. We are eager to discuss this with you to better understand your approach towards these activations. Number 3, fire safety. Given the events at Winter Village last year, we would like to continue to engage to ensure that there is a fire safety plan for all events and programs at the park. It is our understanding that this is under development for the coming year, and we welcome that discussion. Want me to continue?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Our goal in sending this letter is to better understand your perspective on these issues and to create a framework for a discussion moving forward. We are also happy to host a public meeting at which we can all hear from members of the public about these concerns to better understand the community perspective. What we seek is what you see, a vibrant park enjoyed by all, including the increasingly residential neighborhood around it. which will only become more residential after the recent Midtown South City of Yes rezonings. Thank you for the work you do to achieve that goal. Signed, Community Board 5.
Okay, so now that we've got this, the goal was to summarize it at a high level. Does anybody have any concerns with any of the language that's in here? Do you feel that does anyone want to incorporate any additional concerns? Again, this is just the set of what the concerns are. The detailed questions about sort of like the fact finding of how do we fix it is gonna come second. But this is the stuff as a user of the park, how does it feel? Gail.
So I don't know if this is too specific for this, because I hear what you're saying about it being more about like the general user of the park, but I don't know if it's something we want to integrate at this time. I at least do find it a little sketchy, for lack of a better term, how they kind of obfuscate any questions on how these activities contribute to their budget and how it helps them operate. I don't know if that's something we want to put in this language, but I just know that's come up in several of the meetings I've attended.
Yeah, just for a little bit more insight on how this came together with the budget, that was raised in a lot of conversations that like myself and Myrna had on how to work through the language. And we worked with Huron, our vice chair of the board, on how to incorporate that. I think that there might be a way, we wanted to include that under the commercialization and the budget piece, but we can try to incorporate a line about that it's in there within the revenue for its future success, but we can try to make that more explicit. If anyone has any language they want to add specifically, but we can also circulate that beforehand. Before the executive committee, but yeah, no, excellent point, and that is something that has come up at almost every single meeting that we've had about a commercial activation the entire time I've been on the board.
Totally.
Ask a question of Gail, just follow
Oh,
up. Question.
yeah, quick follow-up on the commercialization and budget.
So Gail, just so I have this clear in my head, would it be, what were you talking about, are the financial considerations that go into the decision-making process as far as activations go?
Yes, exactly. Because I feel like they never really speak to it. They always say, oh, we don't want to say what it is. And I think that can sometimes put the board in a weird place where we want to approve because we want them to succeed, but I don't feel like there's a lot of transparency there into how these sorts of activations are contributing for them.
Thank you.
Okay, so transparency, overall budget. I think we can find a way to incorporate that a little bit more explicitly. Tom.
I get we listed the 3 concerns of the community, but it kind of ties a little bit into this. But I would say there's a 4th from the community board, which I think is a little different than the community, is there's been a constant refrain of lack of communication, clear communication. It goes from, since I've been here, the RFP for the diner, we weren't included in that. And I don't know if there's a polite way to put, not only the communication, but going into her comment, like, I don't want to say respect, but there's this general largesse. I don't, John, do you know a better word to kind of say that? They're almost indifferent to it's kind of like they get very procedural every time we ask them to come in.
Like, we don't have to do this.
Yeah. I apologize, it's just.
Yeah, no,
looking for a
I think
better
it's a
word.
casual conversation. We're just trying to make sure the flow is happening.
So,
So,
Yeah,
I'm hearing you on the transparency piece of it and
I don't
the
think it's,
obfuscation piece, which is both sort of what Gail
Yeah.
mentioned on the financial, but it's a through line through some of our interactions with them in general.
I would say most of our interactions with them, and
But, okay, so,
can I suggest something?
okay.
but it's not appropriate, just noting it's not appropriate in those 3.
So that's sort of something that we wrestled with it in general. The goal of this letter is meant to sort of hit the reset button, and try to frame all of the conversation to kind of start over and to avoid that lack of communication, that lack of transparency. And this is hopefully setting the stage for any communication that we want about our concerns moving forward. I think that there might be a way to include more of that. I do think that the budget and the transparency around that, so we can have a holistic view. I think that that is, we try to address it as much as possible. We're saying that like, we want to work with them many, many times.
Thank
over.
you.
But yeah, that piece of inside baseball, there's been discussion about having it come later. Just to give some background on that, but I'm eager to hear other people's opinions on that.
Just to follow up on that.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that, and wouldn't it be something that you at least want to address in like the conclusion? And the only reason I say that is like, and once again, it doesn't have to be a big point with that. Because when the ultimate failing be give this letter and they immediately go to that as their address, they're like, well, we've talked about you, like, the conversation starts, oh, we've talked about this with you guys, we don't understand where you're coming from. Then it's like, all right, we have to now, like, almost like, hey, we want to, or even if the way you phrase it, hey, we'd really like to reset communication. But like, no, like, we want to start from ground. Because otherwise, if the response back is, we've talked to you about all of this. Our response is, like, it's almost like heading off in the past, the conversation of, we've discussed this all with you and we feel like, this is retreading. It's like, if the goal is to reset communication, as certainly pointed out.
I very much hear you. I have raised similar concerns, but to the extent that whatever they come with next, we're just gonna continue to ask them more questions. And the idea behind this letter is that it gives us sort of the full weight of the board to say, hopefully we've reached consensus. These are our concerns. Let's talk about it. Let's find solutions. The part about the communication and the transparency and lack of transparency about stuff. I think that that's sort of the next step we want to set, and we will address whatever comes next. I think that some acknowledgement, I think we could probably work in. But I very much hear you, and it resonates very deeply with me, as sort of an acknowledgement that the communications have, broken down, and we hope to revise that. So if we can try to figure out a way to add that into a conclusion sentence, that people are amenable to sort of a notion of it, but that there's some questions about whether or not that is specifically a concern with the park.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Let's go to some other people. Christopher. Oof.
Yeah, I like the letter the way it's written, it's fine. You went through the vice chair of the board anyway, so I mean, it makes sense. It's tailored to like what the full board is going to say. And again, in the sense that it's like just to open a dialogue, obviously all these concerns that we have, we'll deal with later. There's no point in like, why do we put these couple extra details in? I think we should just save our energy for the time we actually meet with these people. The fact that we're opening up this channel through the entire board, like again, as was just mentioned, that it's like the weight of the board saying, hey, we need to have a discussion, means that we don't need to belabor the point by including that in the letter, and we don't need to include details that are, something that this committee, has struggled with. So on like a very small committee scale, this is something that has risen to the level of the entire board. If you get the entire board to say, hey, come talk to us, then once they're talking to us, we can bring up the things that we want to bring up. I think the strategy that we should employ here right now is look at this kind of high level letter, accept it for the way it is, because I think it's really good, and not, spin our wheels or waste our time on changing it that much further. I mean, I would make a motion right away to say that this letter is great, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes. But the next time I speak, I'll definitely be saying, let's just approve this.
Okay. Are there other opinions about this letter or things that are concerns that we would like to add? Catherine.
So I just want to comment that my sense is that sometimes what feels like they may not be forthcoming has a lot to do with it's not been requested, as well as they have survived for, they built, what I feel is that they built something over decades with not a lot of oversight, and they have, and also, but because of who they are, they've been good stewards. So that's what I'm trying to get at, that in the way that the tone at that which we approach this has to be with, I think they have, a lot to share. But they don't necessarily, I think that that's where the tug is, that they've been stewards for a very long time in a place, in a city that doesn't have a lot of money for parks. Right, so some of the things we're demanding and asking for, if it were to go away, we don't have not to say that we don't have the money to put there. So how can we change the structure and the dynamics so that there is a little more transparency, so that there's a little more public in the finance and the governance?
And the public-private
Right, so,
partnership and.
and I'm with
public
Christopher, like the next, we
community
could
feedback.
talk about this and.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, I'm hearing you on the need for making sure that this is really like the balance that we try to seek and sort of the conversation. And I hear you on, their potentially being suspicious of us for asking things and pushing back in ways that this just formalizes a lot of our concerns that we've heard at many of our full board meetings. So to sort of formalize that, Myrna.
I'm just, not to put words in Tom's mouth, but so just to paraphrase it a little bit, would it make sense to say we would like the opportunity to provide community input well in advance of a lot of this planning? And it's a concern, it's a valid concern. I think it should go into the letter. But we think that community input, more often than not, is, for the lack of a better word, ignored. Or, it's an afterthought. And we would like it not to be an afterthought.
I think that if we maybe it would be amenable to put in a like slightly stronger language about partnering together so that the interests of the community can be incorporated at earlier stages. I think that the later, anything that is critical, I think needs to come at a later date. And I think I have no reservations about coming at a later date with many of our concerns that they're not addressed. I think that at the early stages, we want to make sure that, hopefully this will help the whole board be behind us. We will be taken more seriously. They will have more of a written umbrella of what our concerns are. And so hopefully they will come to us significantly farther in advance in partnership with a complete calendar of programming, for example. We can have an actual report. My understanding is that they do have counts of who attends their events and the attendance of them. Things we've talked about previously of per square foot, how much money they're making on the event and what's the footprint. But this is hopefully to give us the context and the framework and sort of the authority from the board to then be asking the questions. So it doesn't just seem like whichever one of us happens to be doing an activation is then a random community board member asking for information, that it's more of, we have these concerns and this is how it leads into those concerns when we bring them up in the future. So again, we can make that holistic thing. I'm gonna go to Todd, who's been waiting for a little while.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Libby, you beat me to it. So a few comments, I'll be brief. Let's be honest. In our dealings with Bryant Park Corporation, getting metrics and data and financial information has been like pulling teeth. Now, our job is to represent the interests of the district and comment in a holistic way, in a specific way, on the things that they're doing that impact citizens of our district. What you just said, Libby, about getting metrics and dollars and numbers. The community boards have historically been underfunded and been unable to really augment our, initial feelings and perceptions with solid data. It's not clear to me. Look, we've had discussions before. We've sometimes got sidetracked on whether or not, the Bryant Park Corporation and its individuals are taking too much money. That shouldn't really be our primary concern. Our concern, as Libby alluded to, is we need the solid data and metrics about what's happening and what's driving their specific decisions. I don't see why. I can understand why for certain financial and concession things, they're not going to give us the financial information. But why can't Well, okay, so they should give us more information in general, maybe not the financial information, but the metrics about when the park is being used. And what this letter needs is a number 4, which makes clear that we wish they would work more openly and transparently to provide us with the data they have on how many people are in the park and what time during the year. And
So-
yeah, I'm sorry.
Just to interject a little bit here, so the plan for all of our questions, which had been our initial plan for this evening, was going to be to ask them questions. We took a step back from that to make sure that we have all of this. The follow-up to this saying, hey, we've got concerns. These are just things that we have a feeling about. This is our sense. Let's solve this together. The next step and our next communication is then going to be about the questions. And the ability to get it. And so there was some internal sort of questioning, and that's why this is sort of a step back to give us that initial thing. And then we follow up with questions. And again, I'm not in any way backing down from any concerns that anybody has about really being persistent to make sure that we get all of that data, all of our questions asked, everything that we want to know, but that's going to be sort of step 2. So that the questions and analytics, again, we want to be reasonable. Like we don't want no effects. Nobody here wants to be extreme. This does not have to be a black and white decision about either it's nothing or this. It's sort of our sense that it's not an enjoyable passive part. But I hear you, Todd, and that is very much the direction that we are going. But just we were asked to take a little bit of a step back to then be able to move forward.
Okay, well, maybe a short mention of more metrics, but that's got to be the next step, that we make clear that we want those metrics, or we undertake some kind of effort in dealing with Bryant Park where we get that information on our own, if that's possible. Right? Okay, that's my input.
That is very much on our internal agenda for the next step and for our future communications with them. Like, do not fear. There is very, very, very strong support for it. Okay, Tom.
Can I propose a small amendment? In number 2, we say, we're eager to understand the frequency, scale, and interruptive nature of these activations. Significant space and signage is increasingly concerning us, particularly with the Winter Village and Makers Market. That next sentence, we say, we have concerns with some of the brands that have been allowed to activate in the park and whether these brands represent the community values. I think we can 2 birds with 1 stone, because I feel it's a little strong a sentence, but I also think it's a place where we can interject, where we'd want to have a little bit more communication about it. So instead of saying we also have concerns, we start the sentence with, for example, we've had concerns with some of the brands that are allowed to activate in the park, instead of saying whether those brands and would, instead of saying, so for example, that's the first edit, and then we get to the and. Instead of saying and whether their brands and would have appreciated understanding or communicating if these brands can represent the community of just that one.
No, I hear what you're saying, and I see what you're trying to do. I think that anything about how we wish things would have been different, I think that we are trying to.
Or would appreciate. I would, because then otherwise I would remove that sentence.
I think that the concern. I had similar concerns about getting into a lot of detail and not a lot of detail, but I think that the concern there is more about because it has come up at our full board meetings multiple times, making sure that it is as we list out the like size, scale, signage, that like the brand value structure is an additional.
I understand it, because what I would say is that sentence, as it stands, I feel interrupts the flow and the contents, what we're trying to say. We're trying to say we want to communicate more, but it becomes a red herring, because then you're saying like, hey, the way it reads, and it could read different ways. It's just saying like, hey, there's brands that we feel the community, because then it becomes who, and then what examples, and that becomes like it becomes a red herring that falls off, like because maybe someone says like the army for the army thing, right? That's a red herring. That's not necessarily the community, and it distracts from the general conversation where. So if we could use that as either an example, say like this is where we rather communicate or just eliminate it. We can just, once again, I understand that you want to do a process speech, but I think you also want to eliminate anything in the letter that would lead to a non-productive conversation. Where I think like the brand conversation within the framework we're trying to do, it's not productive. Unless it's to show that it's lack of communication.
The brand part of it is because it's one of the complaints that has come up consistently in multiple meetings. It consistently comes up at the full board meeting as well, as a concern. I think that. Okay, so what we've heard is we want more of the transparent, just to summarize and kind of get a little bit more concise here. I want to try to move through this, and I see hands up, Christopher. But so I hear, I feel, Gail's point, about wanting to be a little bit more explicit and trying to work in a line about the budgeting more explicitly and understanding, having a better transparency on the explicit numbers and budget, and trying to find a way to work through that sentence, which we can do on the back end, and then we will all circulate it at the full board. I'm also hearing, I've heard from basically all of you, that we want to somehow address in some way this transparency issue or request for a holistic view or communicating about data, and this is something that we would like. We can kind of see if that's something to do, but I think that might be a separate letter. So it's a little bit varied. I don't know where people are falling on that from a consensus standpoint. And then where are we feeling about the brand, the values and the concerns about that? Yeah.
I agree with Tom and with Chris in that I think this should be kind of as vague as possible and just a bit of a opening the door to start a conversation. We have these concerns. I don't even know if it needs to be this detailed in the 3 areas. If you wanted to flip the statement about the brands, you could say something like, we would love to better understand your vetting process for companies that you partner with, or, you know, something that's like a little more agreeable. Like, we all just want what's best for Bryant Park. And so I think if we did have a little more transparency into how much money they do need to raise and how supportive some of these events are, we would probably be a little more open to them. So, you know, I just think we should like really watch the tone of it and just come from we're all in this together. We all want what's best for the community and for the park to thrive. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, that's okay to change that line to be about understanding the vetting process to make sure it aligns with the brand values.
Chris, where
Is that a good, please don't cross talk. Tom, do you have a question?
I just, you made a thing, I just wanted to.
No, I'm just curious to hear what Christopher's thoughts are on
Yeah.
this.
I just want to vote on
wanted-
this. We've wasted a lot of time now.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
we please vote on this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
John Henry, I'm going to you first
Yeah.
before.
Okay, yeah, all right, one is just a comment, we've already passed over it. As Todd said, I really would love to see the transparency / partnership section. I understand the reluctance, I guess. Well, let me back up. I don't understand the reluctance, but I hear why you're saying that. I hear you saying you're reluctant, but let's move on from that. My real question is, who's gonna sign this letter? Can you be very specific?
Very specific. It will be
And-
signed, it will be voted on by the full board.
Right,
It
so who
will
will
be
sign the
signed,
letter?
it will be signed by Brad and it will be signed by myself.
Okay, 2 people. All right,
But it'll be a resolution
no, I understand.
around the
And
letter.
it'll be the standard.
It will be the full weight of,
committee
it'll be the
head
full weight of
and-
committee work. That is the objective, is that it will be the votes of the full 50-member, whatever number we are at currently, of the full community board to vote on this. To say, this is our statement. If you would like to change it, put like a header above it, just say like, in some sort of resolution form that we have done
No,
that
I don't
before,
care.
but it's
The,
a different
the
vote.
letter is fine. I guess, they have to, monthly, they have to deal with this committee.
This group.
And I guess I was just wondering if there was some way we could convey how unified we are. I mean, I know the board will be, but that, you know, this is really something that's ticking off this committee.
This particular committee is
Yeah.
very invested in this issue.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you normally sign it the way you just say on behalf of the whole committee or what, but I just wanted, because I have a feeling we're gonna be unanimous. I think, in our view, just a thought, but just because I want them to visualize it, you know, they're gonna have to come before us.
I think that there might be, I can check with the office on this, but I think there can be a way that we can say like. As a resolution or in our thing with some like whereas language of like. We voted, yes, this will be CC'd to like the Parks Department. It's getting CC'd to the, like, it's going,
Right.
we're going
But I
wide in our
No
distribution here.
disrespect, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that they don't think it's just two people with you.
That's the whole.
Well, no,
purpose of
no,
it.
within it says that the full board voted 50-0
Right,
and one abstain to send this letter.
Okay, all right, so you will reference a vote in this.
I think that there is a way to do that and.
I'm not, that's
we-
it, that's
That
a
is,
good way.
I believe that when we send letters in general, we reference what the vote at the full board was. And then when Brad speaks, he speaks as the board.
Can I just add to that? So community board 4, for example,
Yeah.
everything is in the form of a letter. It's
Yeah,
never done.
yeah, no, I know that, I'm familiar with all the different debates and just how we position this particular one. I'll tell you what I'm really thinking. I'm thinking that when we talk about, Bryant Park, I'm thinking about one person. I'm thinking about how we're communicating this to one
Yes.
person. I know we're using the word Bryant Park Corporation, so that's where I'm coming from. I want this person to visualize. all
Yeah,
of
no,
that.
the vote tally does appear on,
Yeah.
that's why we have to then, unlike in the past, we actually have the full
Yeah.
votes.
But that's the full board. I'm talking about the committee.
But the vote
The
should
committee-
go on there.
You want also the votes from the committee
Yeah.
itself?
Yes, that's my point.
Yes.
Okay, we'll
Because that's
totally
who
end
we
that.
really
We can
know.
also add a
Yeah.
line too about the committee looks forward to working close, I mean, we say
Yeah.
we're eager, but we
Yeah.
can, I'm totally fine saying we would like to work in very close partnership with you
Right,
going forward.
right.
I would prefer not to have the.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Mike. And then I think we're getting close to being able to call a question.
Yeah, I prefer not to have the committee vote, because I would, as currently stand, I'd vote no against this. So that I could bring up the edit and the tone to the main board as point of a conversation, as part of an amendment.
Okay, what are your concerns about this? Because we really, the goal in this, again, is just to be as unanimous as possible, which is part of why we've taken out a lot of. It also needed to thread the line so that it's specific enough that they actually have something to have a conversation with us about. And we're not back here in October having the exact same thing when we actually, just as a reminder of what our agenda is coming up. We have to see all of the Winter Village stuff, the questions that were not fully answered previously. We actually have to see the village itself, that plan. We have to see, and then we will also then see other additional programming and marketing activation requests. We don't have those yet, but that is likely what will be coming up. And overall sort of use of space questions that we have and how we think about it more deeply. We still have conversations to be had with Madison Square Park Conservancy. And then also ongoing questions with the Unions for Partnership, especially as they begin to look at becoming a conservancy. So this is really meant to just sort of high level. And, you know, though it is a separate, it was a choice, a deliberate choice to not include the 34th Street or like the 34th Street partnership that we also have concerns around, but they're slightly different than this sort of ongoing, very specific thorn in the sides of this committee. So is there a way that we can get to consensus on this?
I mean, I gave my amendment, and I will say in defense of my amendment, which, you know, Marissa, I think Catherine touched on a little bit, is just the tone. It changes the tone and it hits transparency. We will not, if we do not mention transparency, even if you think there's a next step, there's no way if you don't touch on transparency, that this will get all the votes of a full ballot up to me. We all know just 2 or 3 people that will go, they're not transparent, they're gonna drive it. You can't say, well, we want to do this. And I think if you dig in and kind of say like, look, you know, other people thought about this. I'm just.
Okay, so we're gonna add Kim's change about to that line that you did say that you wanted changed of the concerns about the brands, but we're changing that to, we want to better understand your vetting process with your partnerships and the brands that have been allowed to, the brands that you choose to do activations with in the park, and that understanding your process behind that and more transparency.
And
and
then Gail's
concerns that come
amendment,
up.
and then Gail's comment.
And then, yeah, we also have
Transparency
Gail's
around
thing about
financial
the more, and then
consideration.
later we've got more explicit, we're gonna be a little bit more explicit about the types of monitoring. We talk about the funding for the future success of the park. We're gonna say something that is a little bit more, they don't have language yet, a little bit more explicit about the budget and understanding our budgeting process and the specific financial
I wrote
stuff.
something down, can I suggest, maybe Gail can? Language.
You wanna be more specific on that language? Okay, Gail?
Sorry, I meant to unmute and I raised my hand by accident. I definitely can, but I will say I also do see the benefit to what some people are in the room are saying of like, if we want to keep it super high level, keep it sort of a different tone right now and work that in later and just vote on the letter as is now and sort of see it as a stepping stone to moving forward. I see value in that perspective as well.
To not saying, I think that Gail, your original point was right about wanting to understand, and Kim summarized it well, about understanding what the financial elements are to this.
Yeah.
Because we understand the realities of what this is, and to not have it be like, we want all of the things, and, we understand the trade-offs here. I think that,
Can I suggest it then?
yeah, Myrna.
Transparency around financial considerations that go into the decision-making process.
There you go.
There you go. Motion like that includes the word transparency.
Yeah,
Executive board.
Yeah, look, we know there's 2 or 3 people we have to get with the letter. If you want to get if that's the goal, you have to say that.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a way to talk about the transparency around that. They've also said to us at various points, like, they're happy to do that. It's just, this is formalizing some of that transparency. And again, it's just to set the stage
Correct.
for this going forward. Whatever they do in response to this, again,
We don't know.
we are not pulling any punches. We're not saying we're pulling punches in the future. This is just to begin a conversation, to set the context, the full weight of the board behind us. But great. That is the change that we will be making. If you have that, if you can make that edit, that would be fantastic.
The 2 changes, right? Marissa's and Matt.
Can't.
Kim, oh, sorry.
Okay.
Just a quickie from.
Very, very
Yeah,
specific, and then.
I just, have we made any attempt, or do we want to make any attempt to invite a representative from the Rye Park Conservancy to join us at the full board meeting?
That is, we expect to, not at the full board meeting, because we really like to have the work of all of our subject matter things to be done at the committee level, as you all have lived through or will live through soon, at this committee over the last many months. But we do, in issuing this, really are inviting them, as we invite them many, many, many times in this letter, to come and talk to us as a committee and as individuals, to really get everything that the full board especially, and then also very, very much so this committee is super invested in having answers to answered. So how they respond to this letter, like, that is part of this invitation. We hope that will be one of the things that then occurs once we send this to them. I anticipate that they will be coming.
So it will go out before our meeting on Thursday, right?
This will be voted on, and
That's
they're coming to us anyway on other matters. Whether or not this is gonna be a full thing, we will work on. Okay, is everyone feeling pretty good right now?
No.
No, I'm not feeling good about that. I move that we accept this letter with minor changes.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Charlie,
Yes.
First time was ready.
Julia. He's not there. Not there. Catherine.
Yes.
John.
Sorry. Yes, for Julia.
Libby,
yes.
Michael Quebec,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
And I am a yes. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all for
New
formalizing.
business.
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any other matters of new business that people would like to raise? I see one Michael Kavak, an item of new business.
Yes, you will all be interested to know that this Sunday, the seventh, at 11 o'clock, there will be a Flatiron District walking tour about 2 hours with Miriam Berman leading it, and I'll be there to make sure that she does a good job. On that tour, you will learn stuff like where the expression "keeping up with the Joneses" come from. You don't know that, but you're gonna learn and I won't tell you unless you go on a tour. And other great stuff from Miriam Berman, who wrote the book about Madison Square. Thank you. That's this Sunday, 11 o'clock at the point of the Flatiron Building.
Great. Thank you, Michael Kavak. If there are new members of the public who do not have comments, I see Todd Shapiro.
I think you should.
Todd has a.
Are you
waving or
you have your hand up?
Oh, I just have one piece of new business. So is there any sentiment on the board to make an effort to try to get us our own intern, such as we had last year, dedicated to the Parks Committee to help us gather metrics on the various parks and how they're used and give us the granularity we need? I was speaking with Brad, the window for putting in a request to get that sort of person to work with our committee may be closing. Just something to think about.
For an intern, okay, and separate from the fellowship projects. But I hear you on, the distinction too.
The fellowship project may be part of it, right?
Okay.
But it's just a thought.
Okay, great, and if anyone does have any fellowship projects they would like, Raisa circulated that, please let me know. Application deadline has been extended. All right, we're adjourned. Catherine, Charlie, those matters, Myrtle, we can get those changes through quickly. With that,
Meeting adjourned.
meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much. Our next meeting will be September 29th. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Out of here before 9. Can we end the meeting? Catherine, can you end the meeting for Monday? Thank you.